Hello, hello. This is Tony with Phillips Fishworks.
I'm Kara with Phillips Fishworks.
And this is another episode of the Friday Four. We're going to jump straight into it with the 4 topics of this video.
Yes.
I'll read them.
Yeah, go for it.
Black Friday, thank you. So we just had our big Black Friday sale. Thank you so much. We're going to talk about that for 2 seconds. We just launched an isopod video this morning. We're going to, number 3, respond to a bunch of YouTube comments, like 16 or 17 of them from the last few videos. And number 4, Planaria in our cultures. What we've done over the last couple years to ensure and change the way we put our cultures together to make sure none of the bad guys go out, and really eliminating them from our systems completely is the goal. So we'll talk more about that at the end. All right, so our Black Friday free giveaway. We had a big sale Black Friday. We gave away a whole bunch of Daphnia, white worms, vinegar eels. There were a couple other things on there. So with the promo code, you've got a free product. Now, we do have about 30 or 40 orders still left to get out. We're going to send them out Monday. Kind of when Wednesday rolled around, we found out that UPS was really delaying a lot of orders. So we sent out quite a few Monday and Tuesday, way more than we normally send out in a week. But we just want to make sure they're going to get there without delay. So if you haven't received your Black Friday order yet, it's going out Monday.
Yes.
Also, the donation. So thanks to all of you guys, we are making a $700 donation to reviveuroceans.org. Thank you. So that's clapping to you guys, not at ourselves.
Yes, thank you.
We wanted to make a donation to this organization, and we were able to do that because of the success of the sale. Okay, enough about that. Number 2. So the isopod video we just launched this morning, it's more of a deep dive. It talks a little bit about their care, talks how you might set up a tank. It also talks about our breeding project we've had going on for 3 years now. It was this is going into our 3rd winter with them, if that makes sense. So whatever year that was, I think we got them in the fall, and we've been through, now this will be our 3rd winter. I've learned a ton about them. They were wild specimens brought into captivity to create a breeding project so we could have captive bred isopods, aquatic isopods for sale. And the whole goal of this breeding project is to get them out into the hobby. And they are on sale on the website still. So for Black Friday, for the first time, I put the isopods on sale. And it was, I think, $10 off. So it wasn't just a couple bucks off. It was $10 off their normal price. And they are still on sale. And I'm going to leave them on sale at least through Christmas. So if you're wanting to stock up on your aquatic isopods, go to the website. They are still on sale, and they're going to remain on sale because we've got a ton of them, and I really want to get them out there so other people have them. It would be great if they were as prevalent as scuds are in the hobby. Right?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be good?
It would be wonderful.
Okay.
All right.
We are moving along quickly today.
Yes, we are.
We are a little less unhinged. Not to totally derail this, but the last video, to be honest, I was in a little bit of a rough state, and I felt a little unhinged.
We were also getting ready for Thanksgiving. It was very busy. It was a busy week. But now we are going to respond to some YouTube comments.
Yes, and I'd like to keep my comments kind of quick, so I won't be droning on and on about them like I normally would.
Just wondering if you'd be getting more shrimp in stock.
Yes, we have them in stock. We are working on growing their population to massive proportions. Through moving around the rooms and getting the scud-free room in our expansion, we had them out of stock for a while, and then they were kind of kicked around in various culturing tubs, and I never really focused on them to expand their growth, if that makes sense. They were kind of in idle. Well, with the development of this room that we're in now, the scud-free room, I've brought them into here to focus directly on them. I've set up a bunch of tubs, and we've got a bunch more to set up. So I do have them. It's not a matter of buying more because we are only selling, like a Phillips Fishworks Hardy cherry shrimp is only that if I raise it. So I'm not importing you know, I could go and buy thousands of them now for almost nothing, bring them in, have them in our system a while, and then sell them to you as Phillips Fishworks Hardy Cherry Shrimp. That doesn't really work.
Mm-hmm.
So now that we have some going, we've had a couple different generations born, you could say, and we will be. I already talked about this in a video, so I'm going to cut this short right now. But basically, probably next spring would be my best guess. And it's because I want to grow their population huge so we don't go out of stock again, which we probably will. Next question, comment, concern. It's not just man-made chemicals to be concerned about. The plant species ground litter comes from is also vital. For instance, walnut trees are allelopathic. While their hardwood is generally fine, their leaves, bark, and roots contain high amounts of juglone. Juglone? We searched it. Juglone. Right, that's juggalos. Look up the other one. Look up juggalone, and maybe how to pronounce it for God's sakes.
How to pronounce juggalone in English?
Juglone.
Okay. Right.
Juglone
is the chemical compound in walnuts. They basically, the walnuts fall on the ground, the leaves are on the ground. It's a chemical that kills all of the other plants around. Certain grasses and things I think can survive that. But I remember the property we grew up on, Frost Road, we had a lot of acreage, and in this like meadow area were all these big mature walnut trees. And one year my dad thought he would plant a bunch of fruit trees down there, and it killed all of them. None of them lasted more than like half a season because of the walnut trees. Juglone. Yeah, too much juggalone. That's annoying. Okay, here we go. The roots contain high amounts of juglone used to wipe out other organisms around the tree. And just as you wouldn't want a bunch of juggalos in your tank, juglone is worse.
I would not want any juggalos in my tank.
Right. So yeah, that's pretty straightforward. It does matter what your leaf litter is, and if you're in this comment was on the video where I'm talking about contaminants in the soil that you're putting underneath of your aquarium, and I had mentioned going into the woods. Well, you also would want to pay attention to that. There are certain trees, walnut trees. I would imagine if you took a bunch of dirt under a bunch of mature walnut trees, that soil may create a toxic environment, especially over time as the juglone. I don't know why I'm wanting to put a funky pronunciation on that. As those chemicals kind of come out of that soil, I could imagine that would be a problem.
Yes.
So thank you so much.
Okay.
I must admit, I added scuds and did not see any, not one for about 4 months. Then one appeared out of nowhere one day near the front of the glass. They're in there if the water quality allows for it. Too good at hiding from fish to completely eliminate them. Yeah, so you added your scuds, you didn't see them. I'm seeing there are fish in here. So almost all of my videos I show where you see scuds and copepods, seed shrimp, isopods, all just skittering about. Skittering. There are no fish in those tanks. Fish eat these little organisms. And the little organisms know that they're going to be eaten, so they hide. Daphnia are not real great at hiding, but fish will keep them suppressed into the substrate and into the dense habitat. So if you've got fish in there, you're not really going to see them very much. But as they said, 4 months later, you see one, well, they are there. Yes, they are there. So if you buy a bag of bugs, leafy bugs, whatever you get, some kind of culture, you buy scuds somewhere else or whatever you're buying, and you put it into there, if you've got fish in there, they're probably going to be hiding. Now, if you've got little teeny fish and you got a big army of scuds, you'll still see those scuds around probably. Now, they also mentioned in there, which I skipped while reading, was they didn't check at night. A lot of species of scuds are nocturnal, I would say. If you have a lot of scuds in your tank and you don't have any fish in there, you're going to see them during the day for sure. Right. But if you see 20 scuds, swimming around, there might be 100 scuds in the substrate, assuming your habitat's dense enough to hide and support that kind of population. Next.
All right, thanks for the info. Should scuds have an air pump?
In a lot of situations, yes, but not necessarily. So the air pump, you would have that attached. You'd have your air pump. You'd have a hose going in, either an air stone that would create fine bubbles, or a lot of times I'll just put like a little stainless steel nut, like 6 millimeters, on the end of that hose. You can kind of thread it onto the hose. That keeps it weighted down, so it's real big bubbles. That's just creating water circulation and breaks the surface tension on the water, and that will help exchange oxygen and carbon dioxide at the water surface. That's what's happening there. When it's vital is when you've got tons of botanicals breaking down. If you've got a lot of botanicals in there, you will definitely want some circulation. If you're feeding any amount at all, really, you're going to want some circulation. If you've got a jar or some small container and you don't want that aeration in there, that's okay. But if you throw in some kind of food, you're probably going to have a pretty big bacteria bloom pretty quickly if there's no aeration. So I would always recommend some kind of aeration if, you're putting in any kind of, you're putting in a lot of food because you're trying to grow a population very quickly or big. But if you've just got a little jar sitting there and you've got a little balanced ecosystem going on and you're not worried about producing a lot of creatures, so you're not feeding a lot, aeration may not be necessary at all. I'll touch more on that. I think there's another comment about filtration and stuff, so we'll talk more about that later.
Just got my delivery of scud balls and bag of bugs yesterday from you guys.
Yay!
Everything looks great. All arrived happy and healthy. Going to give them 2 to 3 months to breed before adding fish. Wish me luck. Good luck.
Good luck. So the reason I wanted to talk about this one is he mentions going to give them 2 or 3 months to breed before adding fish. Wish me luck. That's a great strategy. So a lot of people are trying to create a situation where their tank is a natural system. The habitat hopefully is very dense. There's lots of hiding places, maybe some leaf litter. Well, if he's got bag of bugs and scud balls, you've got some leaf litter and the seed pods. So what we're trying to accomplish is a natural aquarium, natural environment with lots of little living things that then the fish can feed off of and eat on. So by putting in the bag of bugs and the scud balls first, you're allowing those creatures to reproduce and get some kind of established population before the fish start eating on them. So if you've got your fish in there first and they're living in there, and then you put in your scud balls, immediately the second you put them in, the scuds and things are swimming around like, hey, new environment, cool. Oh, sharks, like predators are coming for us. And then they've got to immediately hide. And in that process of literally just floating to the bottom, certain creatures are going to be consumed. And that's not a problem either if you're going to add bag of bugs or any of the products or a culture of live animals that you're wanting to establish in the tank while there are fish in there. You want to do it at nighttime or with the lights off so the fish are kind of a little out of it. I mean, they're never really out of it in a way, but anyways, yes, this is a great strategy. Give it some time. 2 to 3 months is a good time too. Let's not, okay, I'm going to put my bag of bugs in there, let it become established, breed like crazy, and then 2 weeks later add the fish. Again, that's better than not, but 2 to 3 months is some time for the creatures to become comfortable and maybe have a generation or two of babies. That makes sense?
Yeah, makes total sense.
And the little picture there is Jack, the pirate guy. That's kind of cool too.
Jack Sparrow.
Jack Sparrow, the pirate guy.
Also known as Johnny Depp.
Right, weren't we just a couple of sea turtles? I feel like I just was quoting that earlier today. So that's...
Did he say that?
Well, no, the one guy said to him, he lassoed a couple of sea turtles. The like bearded pirate guy talking about Jack.
Okay.
Or it could have been some other movie.
I feel like we gotta dive into some Pirates of the Caribbean. Yeah.
Caribbean.
Yeah. I feel like we gotta dive in.
We become hyper aware of how we pronounce things because people are mean on the internet.
They're especially mean.
They're especially mean. Go ahead. You want me to read one now? Let me have
Sure.
some fun.
Okay.
Look at this case.
So
She is
cute.
on point with Christmas. She's ready.
Christmas.
My scud snails and Neocaridina shrimp are doing really well after 4 months in a 10-gallon tank. I want to upgrade them to a 20-gallon high. Anyone have experience moving scuds, shrimp, snails, and the substrate from one tank to another? Yes.
Definitely this guy.
Yes, this guy. So one way to move scuds, snails, and shrimp,
Yeah, you can set
keep
it
that
down.
from like going off.
I will. I got this.
One way to move scuds, snails, and shrimp is to try to capture them out first. You can literally just take a fine mesh net and try to scoop them out. I would first, you're going to have to move all of the big stuff first. So any kind of decor, sticks, logs, rocks, whatever, baskets of stuff, that has to come out first. Then you're going to probably have some loose, chunky crap, like bits of leaves that are kind of decomposed. Net that out too. Just put that into another container of water, and that's going to have some of those scuds and shrimp in there right there. If you let that then settle, let me rewind. Before you get it all stirred up, take a fine mesh net, or any kind of net, but fine mesh is best. Set it in there, put some green beans in there, some dried seaweed, some kind of food that you know they really like. Put it inside of that net and let it sit there like for 5 hours or a couple of hours. And you'll have the shrimp going in there, the snails will go in there, the scuds will go in there. Then you can just scoop them out. That's one way to remove the bulk of them. Now, also what really helps is if they haven't eaten in a while. So if you haven't fed them for a little bit and you set the net in there, then they're going to be really hungry, or they're going to go, ooh, we haven't, if you just fed them a ton yesterday, they're going to be less likely to go into that net because they're not going to be that hungry. So once you move out as much as you can, take out all of the big chunky stuff, net out all the stuff. There might be a ton of mulm flying around. The water will be brown. At that point, if you let the tank sit for an hour or two, let that stuff settle down. Then you could siphon, get a siphon going and siphon into a bucket in through a fine mesh net if you want. Siphon out that layer of mulm. You could get rid of that. You're kind of starting over in a sense. So now you probably just have a sandy layer. Now, the second you start disturbing that sandy layer, it's going to be kind of nasty. Like a lot of times when you dig into that, it's black and it's anoxic, or they get that kind of anaerobic bacteria smell. I have, in the course of moving tanks, disrupted a bunch of that sand and layer and filled it back up with water and had kind of a crash scenario. So I'm not sure if that was releasing a bunch of toxic chemicals, or releasing a bunch of sorry for the lack of scientific verbiage here. Sometimes when you disturb a bunch of that sand, it can become a problem because the layers of bacteria that have been forming in those deep layers, when you bring that back to the surface, you have kind of a crash of chemicals or a crash of bacteria.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not so much that you literally, it's going to be hard to take all that gunk out and then put it all right into a 20-gallon high. You could take all the sand off, put some of the dirt, and that's going to be pretty rough smelling, I would say, and it's going to have some who knows what. So it might be one of those things, skim off the top layer of sand because that's still got some oxygen in that layer. If you go too deep, you're going to penetrate into those layers where the anaerobic bacteria is growing. And I don't know if mixing all that up and putting in I don't know what kind of result you're going to get. Maybe worth some experimentation. But I would start a new dirt, maybe some new sand, and then take a top layer of that sand off and put that into there and not go super deep. That's something maybe I need to experiment with. I think that answered the question, but yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about getting all of that. But if you move all of the other debris and things that were on the surface of that sand, that was in that oxygen-rich environment, that stuff can go right in, and that's going to basically start you instantly, especially if there's a lot of it. Especially if there's a lot of it.
Okay. On to the next. Great stuff. How can you do a water change on Daphnia, or Moina more specifically, without removing a substantial part of the colony?
Good question. It can be difficult. So we've got some 20 long cultures of Moina. And if I'm going to do some maintenance on that to just kind of bring the water level down a little bit, siphon up some of the gunk on the bottom, I'm going to literally siphon it out into a 5-gallon bucket. And there are a bunch of Moina in there. And then I might take a fine mesh net and scoop out some of that Moina and try to save it. Or maybe run that whole bucket, dump it into a net and get all that stuff and just feed it to some fish. So you can, if you're just trying to get water out only, you can just keep the siphon in the corner and you're going to siphon some out. There's no way around it. I would just siphon that into a bucket through a fine mesh net and try to save as many as you can, put them back in. Now, sometimes if there's a lot of debris you're siphoning up and your mesh net is very fine because you're trying to catch tiny little Daphnia, you're also catching all of that gunk. So what do you do? Because if you put the gunk right back in, you kind of are defeating the purpose, other than you are changing out a lot of water still. So getting some of the gunk back in, if you take the net, hold it in there, let a bunch of the Daphnia swim out, but you're still keeping a lot of the gunk in the net, and then you take that out, that's another effective way. So it's kind of one of those things, there's no real great way other than just to do it and to not worry about removing some out. Try to retain them, put them back in. Is that any good?
Yeah.
All right.
The next one is a tip about bamboo.
Bamboo, baby. Let's hear it. I love getting comments about bamboo.
Do not plant bamboo outside without a deep border to keep it from spreading. My wife's grandfather planted some cane poles over 25 years ago, and it's still a curse that's spreading for acres.
A curse? Okay. I knew it was going to be a negative comment. That's the only thing I've received. So I asked you all to email me about your bamboo advice and experience, and so far it's only been bad stuff.
Or like, hey, I don't know anything about bamboo.
That's fair too.
But we love your scud videos.
Yeah, so thank you so much for reaching out. I'm not criticizing. I had a guy tell me a long time ago, there's no such thing as you know what? We're not gonna continue that. I forgot how inappropriate it was. Bamboo, I understand that the running types of bamboo can be very invasive, and that clumping bamboo should be what I should be getting, except clumping bamboo, for the most part, is a tropical plant, and we live in Ohio, and right now there's like 3 inches of snow on the ground from the other day. So we have to have running bamboo. I'm going to put all these bamboo in planters. I'm not even going to put them in the ground with a border. So you can put like a barrier. And I get it. I'm not making fun of you at all or anything. Yes, it can be a curse. Or, I mean, I would love to see a 25-year-old bamboo grove would be pretty amazing to see. I'm curious where you're located. I'd come and see it if you were close. And I'm curious about what species it is. Man, I'd cut a bunch of it down for you. Or collect up. I mean, you could be cutting sections of rhizome and selling them on eBay for like $20 a 12-inch section. You're sitting on a gold mine. You could cut that whole thing down, turn it into biochar, and sell your carbon credits to a steel company. I mean, that's a process, and it's very expensive. Yeah. But I'm saying it can be a curse, but also it is potentially an opportunity. Now, I'm an entrepreneurial type. I tend to see something and go, ooh, I'm going to turn.
I'm going to turn this way.
I'm mostly just having fun here. If you take a running type of bamboo and put it into the ground, the first year it sleeps, the second year it creeps, the third year it leaps, and by 5, 6, 7, 20 years, this has become quite an aggressive force.
Did you just make that up?
No, that's a saying in the bamboo world.
Oh. Sorry, I'm not up on my bamboo lingo.
You're not. It's fine. Trust me. It's fine.
Okay.
So yeah, if it can become, it's a very aggressive grass that grows tremendously. That's the beautiful part of it. An acre of bamboo sequesters more carbon than an acre of trees. An acre of bamboo produces more paper than an acre of trees. You can harvest a bamboo pole after 4 or 5 years. You can harvest a bunch of trees after 30 years. If you can make anything you can make out of wood, you can make out of bamboo. Now, this is what's happening in other countries that are their culture is kind of bamboo oriented. America is not bamboo oriented at all. It's like insect protein. There are other countries where insect protein is consumed as the majority of their protein. In America, we have not adjusted to insect protein.
I don't.
No, it's fine. Like, I get it. In states like Arizona, they are growing mass amounts of black soldier fly larvae. And yes, some of it goes into pet food, but the majority of it is being ground up into powder for protein and being sent to other countries because here in America, we don't eat insect protein. We haven't adopted it as something that's okay to do, but other countries have. There are huge cricket farms in America that are growing crickets for food, but they have to sell all of that to other countries. And they're grinding it up into protein powders that are being put into baked goods or other ways they're being consumed. But it's all being exported into other countries because America at large has not adopted bamboo, has not adopted insect protein. And sorry to get off on a totally side note, but a 25-year-old grove of bamboo would be quite a thing to see. And as far as it being invasive, it can be invasive for sure. But where is it at? If it was like honeysuckle's invasive, we have honeysuckle around here and it's everywhere. And the locals here they're not thinking about honeysuckle. They're not really concerned about it, but it's having a devastational impact on all of our local environments right here. Bamboo's not. And there is some local bamboo around. And yes, it spreads, but it is not, I think it seeds, depending on the species, like once every 25 to 80 years. And of those seeds, they have an extremely low germination rate. So there's a couple of groves you can pass in our area. If you go, you can find them. And they've been there for years and years and years. And I think they've got barriers to contain them. But there are not bamboo growing anywhere else around it. So 20 years have gone by, and it's not like now there's bamboo in all the woods around or bamboo in all the areas around. And bamboo is like a full sun almost. There are very few species that can even grow inside of woods. So once that bamboo grove hits a woods, it just kind of stops. It may shoot some runners out and a couple here and there, but it doesn't thrive in there. So yeah. I hear you. And thank you so much for the comment. I only said it because I went to reference the bamboo here, but this is a, snake plant? Is that what they call it? So thanks. Send in the bamboo comments, send in the bamboo questions, or if you got something to please educate me about, because I really don't know that much about it, but I've acquired even more of it since the last time we talked about it.
Yeah.
Next.
I still have a lot of scuds born from the original scud balls I bought from you a few years ago. They're interesting little creatures, and my tetras love to eat them.
Yay! Who said this?
Mandy Jane.
123700. Mandy Jane, thank you so much. I've seen your comments over the years, and I really appreciate it. You obviously were early adopters if you got them a couple years ago, and that is just great. And the fact that you still have them is just proof that people do really well with them. So if you get some scuds or some aquatic creature, and after a couple weeks they just die out, it's because there's something in your water or there's something wrong there. They should be just doing super well. And like I've always said, you could buy just a couple of my products and have the entire product line in mass amounts within a couple months and put me out of business if you were doing it right. So go for it, please. But thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. It says, nice. Quite the setup. Your scuds are thriving in my Rebel tank. Thanks and good luck.
Yay! I think I just wanted to mention this one because it's another testament to the Rebel tank. That was a concept I talked about quite a while ago. I actually came up with it years and years ago, way before. I mean, it might have been 10 years ago when I was doing some saltwater tanks. I was just a huge fan of putting a bunch of rubble, like crushed coral, bits and pieces of live rock. And back when I was doing that, they were still importing lots of wild live rock. You could go to like Jack's Aquarium, which is gone, and buy live rock that was literally pulled right out of the ocean. And I'm not saying that was a good idea, and I don't think they do that anymore, hopefully. But there would be all these like sponges and weird random, and there was just so much life in there because it was coming directly out of the wild. Also, lots of problems came with them as well. But these little Rebel tanks, literally half the tank was just debris. It was a debris field. And at night, I would turn the light on and get the magnifying glass out and look at all these little creatures. And in fact, funny enough, when we to get to, how all this started was almost diving right back in the saltwater. It was becoming winter time. I had just closed down part of my life in a different area, and I was looking for something to do. Winter was coming, and I thought, wow, this is like prime time for seasonal depression to start up. I need a new hobby, right?
Yeah.
I had just kind of quit the whole art thing, is what the thing I closed down. I was decided maybe I'm not going to be a world famous artist in Dayton, Ohio. So I was searching, and at that point, at that time, I wanted to get back into saltwater aquariums. And I was searching biodiversity because back when I was in saltwater aquariums, way, way, way before all of that, the whole thing was diversity, diversity. And I was under the impression that in the freshwater aquarium world, there was no little creatures anywhere, no diversity. In fact, I mean, I was naive on my part. Like I was just totally unaware. I didn't know there were freshwater scuds, but I fell in love with those little amphipods, which scuds in the saltwater world. And I remember searching biodiversity in my aquarium. And lo and behold, who popped up? Father Fish. And that was back when he had like, I don't know, it was under 6 or 7,000 YouTube subscribers. And I kind of went on the deep dive there. And that's really what started all this is I thought, oh, you can do this with freshwater. And I went out and I started collecting wild samples and I started gathering up all this material. And before you know it, we had what, 30 aquariums in our living room, dining room?
It's our dining room.
Yeah, dining room. It was rough.
It was rough.
It was humid. It was our old house. We had like window air conditioning units.
It was like a 1920s farmhouse.
Very old house.
Terrible.
Over 100 years old. Very old. Needed restored. Needed gutted, really. And we had like one window unit, and it was ghetto. It was bad. And it was. I remember this summer. It was so humid.
But hey, we're here now.
Here we are. Shortly after that, we moved it to the shop, started growing fish, thinking we were going to do the whole wholesale fish thing to local pet stores. That didn't really work out, but here we are.
Any update on scud-free cultures?
They're on the website. So yes, they are on the website right now.
Perfect.
So there's your update. You can get them. One side note on that. Over time, we'll develop some different scud-free cultures that are different than just the scud-free leafy bugs. We're just not there yet.
All in good time.
Hi, I'm also in Ohio. Something I have wanted to try to get is a compartment-style vending machine. I'm sure you have seen them with sandwiches and other larger food items.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those are great.
Like the ones with the plates?
I don't know. It's like a big vending machine, and you put in your money, and you slide this thing open and pull out a sandwich.
Yeah, like at the hospital.
Yeah, at the hospital or at a factory, or they have them in break rooms at places.
Okay. I've never
Depending
been in
on
such a break room.
Huh? Right. Well, at a previous employment place of mine, which I will not name,
There you go.
I used to get sandwiches out of there on the daily.
Okay. I guess it depends on what kind of vending. Okay. Go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Depending on demand, you could keep it stocked all of the time with your items or just put local orders in it. I want to set one up as a 24-hour bait and feeder dispenser.
That'd be a good idea.
That would be a great idea. Okay, so this comment was on a video where I talked about curbside pickups or local pickups, and I owe you guys an apology. All you locals, there's nothing worse than me like printing out a label that's like going an hour away or closer.
Mm-hmm.
And we are not set up to have just like to have showroom hours.
Yeah.
The way we operate business is to have somebody available to just have someone walk in and ask a bunch of questions and pick out some things. Like that would, at this point in our business, that would really take away from our efficiency. That then would, I mean, it just physically wouldn't work.
Yeah.
So one thing, and I mentioned this in other videos, and we still have not made it happen yet, so I'm sorry, is an option for you to do like a store, like a curbside pickup. And there would be certain days you could come and do a pickup on orders. So we are, this is exactly what this is referring to. He's saying, you could have something maybe sitting outside or something inside. I operate out of my dad's building, and he does have a showroom where customers walk in and get his, get Volkswagen parts.
Mm-hmm.
But again, he's not going to be equipped to handle fish customers or scud customers. And I've got some ideas. It's just we're not there yet. We are building, really what we spend most of our time on, other than filling our orders to go out, is the system maintenance and building infrastructure for future operations. There are things going on behind the scenes that nobody knows about. We have ideas for the future, and it's a grand future. It's a much bigger operation than what we are doing now.
Mm-hmm.
So the steps we are taking is to work towards that goal, not just open up a thing for locals to come and hang out at and talk the talk. Like, that sounds really bad to say, I can't entertain you. I can't entertain the idea of, someone coming in and purchasing from us. But with the way we operate, that's just not feasible right now.
Mm-hmm.
So we are working on a curbside pickup. If you want me to give you a time frame, I would say, I don't know, 2-3 weeks at the most. I would hope we could have some kind of pickup option.
Yeah, I think that's
so good. Hold our feet to the fire.
Mr. Bucket Ponds.
Bucket Ponds. This is from Terry at Bucket Ponds. If you've not checked him out, check him out. He's a really cool channel. He does a lot of jar aquariums, has a ton of content, way more videos than me. He just produces an insane amount of videos, and they're very down to earth. He loves all the little creatures. He's got some crazy cool seed shrimp videos, and loves bladder snails, which I love bladder snails too. So check him out. Hey Tony, love the new stuff, especially the Earth Cycle jars. That's an awesome idea. I know exactly what you mean about the volatility and setup kits. It's fun, but impractical for now. This is talking about, one of our jar kits is the Earth Cycle jar. It's like a terrestrial habitat for terrestrial insects and invertebrates. It's kind of breaking down leaf litter into dirt, sort of a thing. It makes dirt. You could put that under your aquarium. But in that video, I was talking about how, we were struggling to come up with a 1-gallon jar aquarium kit because of the volatility of, if I set up 20 of these jar kits, there's some major potential issues that I think the customer, especially a beginner, is going to struggle with having success at. So, you set up the dry jar, it comes down to water chemistry issues. So with this jar kit, the Jar of Life, which was a product I was trying to work on for a very long time, made some videos about it in the past. It was going to be a 1-gallon jar that came with everything you needed, plus the bag of bugs to start it off. And really, it would be better if you had that jar set up for a little bit before adding that bag of bugs to it. But anyways, that's what this comment was about. But check out Bucket Ponds. He's a great guy. Can we talk about heating and filtration, water changes? How do you keep nitrates at bay? Nitrates are sometimes a hot topic for people, and regardless of how you feel about them, I think if you have tons of nutrients in the water, like high amounts, you're inviting a lot of problems for bacteria or cyanobacteria or pest algae or things you don't want to really explode out of control. So whether or not there may or may not be studies out there that say high levels don't affect fish, I would say there are more people saying there are problems than not. And I'm not just talking about people repeating nonsense information over and over again. I'm talking about big fish breeders at scale, fish breeders, not big people in the hobby that breed lots of fish. I'm talking about places that have hundreds of thousands of gallons of water producing millions of fish. They're going to have something to say about high levels of nutrition in the water. My own personal experience is when I've got systems that are not changing out lots of water because I'm putting lots of food in, because I'm never changing water out, they become toxic environments pretty quickly.
Sorry.
Am I that exciting?
No, sorry.
So,
Sorry.
second yawn, I didn't catch the first one. Well, we ought to zoom in on that next time.
I covered it.
So water changes, what I do here in the shop might be different from what I would recommend to you at home. I would say if you have very high level of nutrients of any kind in your tank, you should probably bring it down. And how are you going to bring it down? Lots of ways. Live plants will consume that nutrients. Water changes will physically remove the nutrients. Nothing wrong with that.
Mm-hmm.
Filtration, certain filters will, in a sense, if you've got a filter that is like a biological filter, let's say you are like a trickle filter, that's kind of a nitrate factory. That gives lots of surface area for beneficial bacteria that's going to convert ammonia into nitrites and then into nitrates. If you have a deep sand bed,
Mm-hmm.
the theory in the deep sand bed is that in the top level there is aerobic bacteria. As you get in those deeper sections of the substrate, the bacteria that are growing are anaerobic, and through the combination of those two different bacteria strains or different bacteria that's growing in the deeper depths, that completes the nitrogen cycle, and it actually converts the nitrates, breaks them up into nitrogen gas, and the nitrogen gas bubbles off the top. That will actually lower nitrates. Might have this very expensive filtration media that's super porous, and in the depths of the pores you get that same concept as the deep sand bed. On the outer parts where you've got water running through the outer part of that filter media, or some people say this can even happen in lava rock, you have more water circulation. The aerobic bacteria is happening more at the surface, but as you penetrate into the depths of the porous media or lava rock, there's less water flow there. The bacteria is anaerobic, and in combination of aerobic and anaerobic, you get the completion of the nitrogen cycle, not just the half that converts it to nitrates. You actually then take those nitrate molecules, bust them up somehow, chemistry wise, and nitrogen gas comes out the top, thus eliminating nitrates. So how do you keep nitrates at bay? You have some plants that are eating them. You're doing water changes to remove them. You have a deep sand bed, a couple inches deep, or you have some kind of filtration that's very porous, and that maybe can have, in that process to develop those bacteria takes a lot of time. That's not something that happens in just a few months. From my understanding, that can 6 months to a year before the bacteria in those deep sand beds is kind of making that system happen. Can you tell I haven't said that little spiel in a while? It was a little rusty sounding, but we're going to leave it. So nothing wrong with water changes. I have to do a ton of water changes here at the shop because I'm moving in hundreds of seed pods through a system, tons and tons of hundreds of baskets of leaf litter through systems. I'm feeding a ton because I'm trying to grow lots of snails, scuds. I might be dumping 5 gallons into a 200-gallon system of Daphnia. I might dump 5 gallons of green water into there 3 times a week. all that green water which is made from fertilizer, that's happening in there. So the nutrient levels tend to get a little high, and I tend to, if I don't do water changes in the system, that system is unusable. It's not growing anything in 6 months. So I know water changes are the enemy in a lot of these natural fish tank communities. It shouldn't be. Let's not divide. Let's unite. Let's not divide and segregate all these different groups. And then if you're part of this group, you have to align to these specific ideas. Throw that in the trash. Come on. What year is this? 2025? We're still not getting along? We still have to fight? Even the natural fish tank people are divided up into a bunch of subgroups. Okay, so don't be afraid to do a water change. There's nothing wrong with it. I know that's contrary to many people, but it's also not contrary to a huge amount of people. Sometimes when you start doing a little bit of that kind of maintenance, you notice things improve. And it's also very dependent. You can have a little balanced ecosystem going on that you're not dumping a bunch of food into, and it just kind of is like a little zen state, and water changes may not be necessary. I'm not a huge water change proponent, especially if you don't need it, if you're not putting a bunch of food in, if the water's not fouled. But in many circumstances, it is necessary for long-term success. Fight me on that. Like, it's true. It's true. There are many large fish species that are eating a bunch of food, and the tank is not set up in such a way to handle that bio load or that food load. And if you didn't have filtration or water changes, you'd be in big trouble. Without some, I like sponge filters are great. Hang on back filters are great. Canister filters can be great. It's fine. Like, it's not, experiment with what kind of works for you. And if you're struggling with something and you think it's related to water quality, change out some water, mess around with some filters. Don't go out and buy a super expensive setup that's probably not necessary. But if you have huge amounts of mold in the bottom of your tank, a sponge filter might help take some of that out. Change that sponge filter out. Take the sponge out, wring out a bunch of that nastiness, put it right back in. Do that once a month. Change out water maybe once a month or every few months, and just see if that improves your problem. If you're not having any problems, you're probably okay. If you've got 2 inches of gunk in the bottom of your tank from front to back and you're having some water quality issues, I can't keep the scuds alive. Everything was fine for 6 months, but now nothing survives. Cyanobacteria is growing on every surface. I can't figure out what's going on. So, I don't know. The thing that kind of, here's what I don't want to be the guy that restricts what I say because I don't want to say the right thing that someone else, I don't want to say something opposed to someone else that's popular that might be in an aligning field or whatever. I want to be honest though, to be honest. To be honest, I want to be honest. I just want to be able to say what I feel and what I have on my mind, and that may give me some repercussions. And I feel like it already has in my business so far. There have been times where I've just said what I needed to say, and some people didn't like it. That's how you keep nitrates at bay. You grow plants to absorb them. You get a deep substrate or something else that's going to process it naturally. You change out the water. Nothing wrong with any of those. Filtration, nothing wrong with some filtration. Sponge filter, hang on back filter can really help out the environment. How to keep the water clear with all the botanicals. I'm assuming you're talking about the water turning black or dark from the leaf litter or seed pods. How to keep that from happening is to soak or boil your leaves and seed pods beforehand. Now, that does release a lot of the tannins that then you're dumping down the drain or throwing out, and those tannins can be beneficial. But if you don't like black water or dark water, you really don't have a choice. And I don't like the look of a dark tank. I would either boil or soak my leaf litter a period of time beforehand. So then they go in there, they have less of an impact. So just simply soak or boil those leaves beforehand, and that's going to relieve a lot of those tannins. That's the best way to do it. I might have missed this, but I don't imagine you use any kind of filtration in this tank, right? If that's the case, do you do water changes? If so, what's a good way to do it without removing creatures from the tank? Also, would Daphne be good to keep with scuds? Daphne are fine to keep with scuds, no problem there. I don't really use any filtration in any of my systems at all. I have a couple inch deep sand bed. I feel like that's part of the filtration. There are a lot of plants in the systems usually. That's part of the filtration. I use aeration as well. On the end of that aeration, there's no sponge filter, mainly because I don't change that out a lot. I don't have to buy 100 sponge filters right now. Sponge filter's great. Hang on back filter's great. No problem. How do you keep that from sucking the creatures in? Well, I mean, they're really small and they can kind of pass through those filters a lot of times, the hang on backs. Sponge filters are no harm for any of these creatures as well. If you're doing a water change, how do you keep the creatures from getting sucked out? Well, you know, I would not be like vacuuming along the bottom and sucking all the gunk out. That's going to suck all the creatures out. I would maybe put a piece of sponge over the hose. That would really keep you from sucking a lot of the larger creatures out. And if you're sucking into a bucket or something, just use a net to get the creatures back out. Either pour the bucket back through the net or have the hose going through the net into the bucket. So that would be a good way to retain those creatures. Yeah, and I'll read this one. I wasn't going to read it. Great video and all, but I can't listen to people saying especially. So I have a lot of videos in the past where, and I'm constantly stopping myself now. That's something apparently as I grew up, no one corrected me when I was saying especially wrong, and I say especially. And that really bugs a lot of people. I'm sorry that you don't have the tolerance inside of you to accept that I say especially. So I've been really working on getting rid of that. I'm sorry you don't have the tolerance inside of you and you have to make a comment like this. There is a lot of these on my videos where people comment and that really bugs you guys. I think it's just a big trigger. Like it's like, I think some people inside of them, when they hear something mispronounced, it just like is, it's such a strong trigger that they just feel compelled they have to say something in the comments, and there's nothing wrong with that. And it used to bother me. Now it does not bother me at all.
There you go.
But it does create a lot of editing work because I do try to get rid of those especiallys. I'll usually say especially right after it, then I cut out the especially. Now, if it's being filmed, a lot of times I don't. I'll just say it twice and then you get to hear it wrong and right. And then sometimes when I'm recording an audio, I'll say it how I've always said it my entire life, which is wrong. I'll say especially, but then I like overpronounce it. So when you're listening to it and you don't hear it especially because I've cut it out, all of a sudden especially comes out like super like in your face. So I can't win for trying, but that's okay. The haters are going to hate. Isn't that what Tay-Tay says? You know.
Yeah, haters gonna hate.
So it's all fun, guys. It's I don't really worry about any negativity. I do read almost all the comments all the time. I don't really respond to comments very often. We just have a lot going on, and I don't devote the time maybe that you guys deserve to the YouTube comments. We have made leaps and bounds on responding to emails, and I'm super proud of that. So now if an email is sent to us, it gets taken care of right away. But YouTube comments, I don't consider YouTube comments an area that like demands a response. And that sounds really conceited and awful. But the truth is there's so much there, and I am just a person. And I'm no one special. I'm just a guy who is trying to grow lots of little creatures so you all out there, if you're interested in buying from me, you have somewhere to go to make a purchase. So that's the whole point of this, is to be able to have a place for someone to go buy leaf litter that's already in water with the creatures, a place to buy Daphnia isopods. You know how many isopod cultures we've sent out? Like over 800 isopod cultures in the last 2 years. That would not have happened if I would not have bred them to sell them.
Right.
Because there's no one really supplying those except a few other oddball places, and some of them are outrageously priced. And right now you can get them on sale at phillipsfishworks.com. You can get aquatic isopods on sale. So I'm just trying to make a difference. I'm just trying to be a place that supplies what we supply. Green water culture kits, vinegar eel culture kits. So if you want to buy something, you can go to a company, and it's not just going on eBay where you don't really know who you're buying it from. You're buying it from me, and if there's a problem, you let us know and we just send you another one. It's that simple. So that's what we're trying to do here. That's why we make the videos. I don't really care about the criticism. It used to really bother me back in the day. You know, I'd read a nasty comment and I'd be upset for like hours. And then I learned very quickly that no matter what you do, and here's a life lesson for all of y'all, it does not matter. It doesn't matter what you do. You're going to have people love it and you're going to have people hate it. And that is by design. No matter what you do, there's going to be people who love you, and then there are going to be people who hate you. And sometimes those people who love you turn into people that hate you. And sometimes those people that hate you turn into people that love you. And none of that matters at all. Because if you're going to those people for your happiness, you're screwed. If you are really proud of the positive comments, you're screwed. If you're really hurt by the negative comments, you're in trouble. I don't take anything from it. I love all of you guys so much, and I love the feedback, and I do love the positive comments, and I do love the negative comments too, because sometimes the negative comments make me a better person, because sometimes they're valid. And I actually have been trying to work on my grammar because I've been blasted for it so many times, it's nauseating. But I don't look for my happiness from you all. I try to find that inside. It comes from one place. So, you know, it's not about, this is more or less like my whole channel is about education and promotion of my website, just to be honest. I'm not even monetized. I mean, I guess I should be. Someone yelled at me for that last time or a couple videos ago. Why aren't you monetized? Yeah, monetized, bro. I don't know. I haven't done it yet. So I'm not even making money off of YouTube at all. I'm probably eligible for it, I guess. But my concern is letting people know what's happening in our business, educating people about what we're selling, because that's what we're doing. Thank you so much. Love you all. I don't want to make it sound like, I mean, I read every single comment, and maybe someday I'll get on like actually responding to the comments. But this whole rundown, that was the last comment I was reading. This whole rundown of answering comments was my attempt to give you all some feedback on what you've been saying to me, and maybe we'll get better at it. Okay, so now the fun part, talking about Planaria, everyone's dreaded aquarium pest, the pest of all pests. It's been in the hobby from all of time, and everyone has hated them for all of time, but yet they are still in a lot of people's tanks. So clearly they are super masters at getting from one place to another. Planaria are extremely unique animals. They're flatworms, and they are technically predators. They're technically like a predator flatworm. Now, they will also eat all kinds of other things. They are very scavenger-like. They love dead things, dead meaty things. Not so much on eating dead plants. But they can be a problem in high numbers. They're part of almost every ecosystem. If you go out in the wild, let's say you follow someone's advice and you go scrape up a ton of leaf litter out of a pond and throw it in your tank, you have Planaria. That's facts. Go into a creek. Every body of water I've collected any kind of material from, not just scoop out of the top of the water, but if you actually collect any kind of leaf litter or plants, you have Hydra and you have Planaria. And I wouldn't necessarily categorize them as the good guy at all. And I would say in your at-home aquarium where you're putting some food in and you're feeding it and different types of things, you can get a pretty good population of Planaria going, and that can become problematic. Now, when it becomes problematic, typically you don't have any fish in that system. And if you do have fish in that system and you still have tons and tons of Planaria, it's because you are putting tons of food in that system, because normally if you're not overfeeding, the fish actually will eat on the Planaria. Now, there are species of fish that won't. Real tiny fish may not really go crazy for the Planaria. And again, if you're giving your fish 3 square meals a day, why would they eat a Planaria? Planaria is like the salad. You know, if you got a burger in front of you, you typically aren't going for the salad. If you're smart, you'll go for that salad.
There you go.
Anyways, so I'm not here to discuss whether Planaria is important for an environment or not. I would say in wild environments, they are vital for a lot of very specific reasons. Do our cultures we sell come with Planaria? No, they don't. We do not put Planaria into our cultures intentionally or directly ever, and we never have. And maybe there was a time early on where we were maybe getting our feet wet, and through the way we did things, it was possible that Planaria got into the culture. Now, why would we have Planaria in any of our systems at all? Well, because when we started our systems, it was very important for everybody, at least my understanding was, what do the customers want? What does the hobby want? They want the most biodiverse culture they can get. They want a very biodiverse environment. And it wasn't like I thought, okay, well, then I need to include Planaria. That was not the thought process. But the thought process was, when I originally put my systems together, I was sourcing a lot of natural material from wild sources. And thus, Planaria came. Even besides that, I was sourcing lots of plants from lots of different vendors. Thus, Planaria came. I was sourcing scuds from a couple different sources, and all sources gave me Planaria as well. So it seemed like I purchased and collected from many, many different places, and all of them gave me Planaria. So Planaria was in all of my systems, because if you make a new system and you take a bunch of leaf litter and rocks and sand and gunk and plants from one system to the other, even if you pick out all the Planaria, you still get Planaria. So that was that. In the early days, people were like, hey, I want the most diverse microfauna culture I can get. So I would put these things together, and because Planaria were in our systems, because they were natural systems, and we have all these huge big systems, and everything was hooked together at one point, everything was really hooked together, and I think it was about 5,000 gallons on one system, consistent of lots of tubs and barrels and tanks. So really, I would put the cultures together, I would pick out any Planaria I would see, but at that point, the scud balls you were getting came out of our system, and you shake out those scud balls for a half an hour, and there could still be little tiny baby Planaria wedged in a crack. So that was how the Planaria would get into a culture. So even though we would spend a tremendous amount of time combing through our cultures to make sure there were no Planaria in there, there would still be Planaria in there. That's a problem, and I understand why that's a problem. And I myself have been trying to rid our system of Planaria now that I have kind of discovered, like, yeah, it's an issue. You don't have fish in there eating them. The population of Planaria gets pretty huge. That seems to be a problem. It's a problem for my customers. The hobbyists are very concerned. Who's not concerned about Planaria? Big giant, like, natural fish people, like big fish farms that are natural oriented, or they're doing it the natural way. They're not really talking about how Planaria is a problem. The fish are eating the Planaria. They've got scuds. They're selling scuds and shrimp as well. They are not concerned about Planaria. People that are concerned about Planaria are usually hobbyists, and it's usually smaller tanks where the Planaria population has gotten kind of huge, and that's when it's a problem. So what have we done to change to try and eliminate Planaria out of our cultures, not just comb through it and look through it and make sure? Well, what we do now is the leaf litter and the seed pods, most of them are never really entering our system. We've sacrificed diversity to give you what you want. You want the most diverse thing you can have, is what you're saying. But what you really want are a very specific profile of certain animals, like a very species specific profile. I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this. I don't want this, I don't want this, I don't want this. That's what you're actually asking me for. You say, I want a really diverse culture, but really diverse, what I really mean is, I want this, 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 and this, and I don't want this, 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 and this. So our leaves and seed pods go into a very contained select area where there are no planaria at all. Mm-hmm. So all of our scuds and things come out of all these, what I would call our wild tanks. Now it's not wild in the sense that we're putting wild material in there, but our older systems that have been growing scuds a very long time, there may or may not be some planaria in some of those. So I'm just harvesting scuds out of those, and it's very easy to take scuds into a container, look through, make sure there are no planaria in there. So your botanicals are not coming from those systems anymore. They're coming from different systems where we've gone through and done the work to eliminate the planaria completely. And the inspection process is a lot more thorough than it used to be. So I think somewhere on the internet it says something like, Phillips Fish Works gave me planaria. And while that's definitely possible, and I know that's happened in the past, but things have changed. I have a different understanding or a different philosophy. At one point, I was under a different understanding of what the customers really wanted. Mm-hmm. And to be honest, planaria in the average community fish tank is no problem. And if you're buying plants somewhere, you're probably getting planaria with those plants. And if you don't see the planaria and you inspect the crap out of it, you probably are still getting planaria from those plants. If you are sourcing leaf litter from the wild, you're getting planaria. And I don't know that there's anything really wrong with that, but that's the concern. People are very concerned about planaria in our cultures. We work very hard to make sure that doesn't happen. And if that has happened to you in the past and you've gotten planaria from us and it's become a huge problem, seriously, my sincere apologies. I'm not making light of that, but really, for a lot of people, planaria aren't even an issue. For some people, I joke not. This is not a joke or a lie or an exaggeration. I have had people try to buy planaria from me. And I made a joke like I was going to put them on my website because people have requested them. I'm not going to do that. That's insane. Although I think you can buy planaria from Carolina Labs. That's more of like a science thing where you're dissecting them or doing something for like classrooms. I don't know. But planaria are not the enemy. Planaria are a very important species for many, many, many aquatic ecosystems. That's not an exaggeration and that's not a lie, but they are not going to be coming in your cultures, and we do a lot of work to make sure that doesn't happen, and we've ridded planaria out of a lot of our systems anyways. But you're talking about big natural systems, hundreds and hundreds of gallons, some of them are 1,000 gallons. Do you want me to drop the planaria, the chemicals in the system that kills the planaria and wipe out all that diversity? I don't really want to do that.
Right.
So we're going through other steps. So please rest assured, if you buy something from me, you're not going to get planaria, and we work very hard to eliminate them from the system. I think we're going to end on that note. Thank you for putting up with this very long Friday 4. I hope you all are enjoying them. Remember, isopods are for sale on the website right now, and there was an isopod video drop earlier today. Anything you want to add to this, dear sweet Kara?
I think we're good.
You think we're good?
I think we're good.
All right, check out phillipsfishworks.com. Thank you so much.
Thanks, bye.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day.